Welcome to the Fan Phone-In Show, where we talk to you and find out your opinions on everything going on at West Ham at the moment. It is the dreaded international break, and we got to find something to bloody talk about. And so Nicky's on holiday, so I'm taking over the show. I realised I didn't have a picture of me on the thumbnail doing a Nicky, like, oh, I'm on the phone. I'm pretending to be on the phone. We don't even know we don't speak to people on the phone, but that's the gimmick in it. So yes, I'm joined by Scott today on the show.
Oh, mate, you all good?
How's it going, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right.
So yeah, I mean, I just jumping into it and chat to everyone in the chat. I mean, how are you feeling with West Ham at the moment? Like, obviously, look, we've seen just games under Nuno. We saw a lot of horrendous games under Graham Potter, but I mean, like, what do you think, Nick? Can how the hell can we fix this club? What does Nuno need to do? To get us where we need to. If you even think he's capable of doing it.
Do you know what, right, mate? He's making good inroads so far, and do you know what I mean? He's not. He's saying the right things. Look, I know when Potter came in, he said the right things, but I think with Nuno, he's sort of doing the right things. He's trying to, fixing the club's a big thing, and there's a lot more than just with what's on the pitch. But all he can focus on is trying to reconnect us with the team and trying to get performances and results, and that's all he really can do. There's a lot of other stuff that's way out of his control. So he just needs to focus on doing what's right on the pitch. And as I said, so far, it looks good. We saw against the Arsenal game, we looked much more organised defensively from set pieces. We defended crosses a lot better, which is something in the past, under the past regime, we've been awful under. And we're seeing some youth being used, which we've been crying out for a while. We know we've got a decent crop of youngsters sitting there in the under 23s and not being utilised. And I feel that he's utilised Potsy a bit, bringing him in the Everton game, bringing him on. It was a big thing to bring him on into that midfield against Arsenal.
Yeah,
showed a lot of faith in him, and the same with Marshall. Like, as we said, we were talking about Friday Night Pint. Fulkrug didn't do a lot. As I said, I don't think we played to his strengths. We were saying about Wilson, probably would have got isolated a lot. So he brought on someone who's young and hungry, who's going to work hard. And that's what we want to see. Is we said we're used to being. We've been at West Ham. We've supported West Ham long enough. We're used to seeing bad results. We're used to seeing the team getting beat, but it's the manner of way we get beat. And as much as we wasn't brilliantly in the game against Arsenal, we still worked hard. We were organised, and that's what we need to see.
Yeah, no, 100%, mate. It's a big job. It's a big job he has on his hands for sure, and we only see that against Arsenal. I think the first thing he needs to fix, the first thing I'm looking at right now, is probably the striker situation. That needs to be sorted out, whether it's finding a solution within the players we have or bringing someone else in. Now, shout out to Ryan because he shared something in the chat group chat earlier, and it was our last 5 striker signings, which is Callum Wilson, Nicholas Fulkrug, Evan Ferguson, Gianluca Scamacca, and Danny Ings. In 49 games, have 6 goals. Erling Haaland in 3 games has 6 goals at the London Stadium. So that's at the London Stadium. So Haaland in 3 games has scored as many goals as our last 5 strikers have at the London Stadium. That's horrific. That is, mate. So you must want to give up, didn't you, on signing strikers because we're so shit at it. Like
this is the thing, when you sit there and look at them sort of stats, it's bad reading, isn't it? But you've got to look at the players that are there. Danny Ings, wasn't great. Evan Ferguson didn't really work out for him. It's the Scamacca, the Fulkrug. Callum Wilson's still early doors. But
Yeah,
the
he
other
hasn't really
teams,
got much
Skamaka
of a
and Fulkrug,
chance.
they've come in at a higher transfer fee with a lot of faith being put into them. And unfortunately, Skamaka never delivered the goods, and nor is Fulkrug at the minute. And it's look, Haaland's a different kettle of fish. I know that I get the stat. It's more looking at the amount of games that are played, but Haaland's playing for a great Man City side, and he'll bag goals against many teams. He's probably scored goals against other teams as many as their strikers have scored in the last 5 signings. That type of thing. But as I said, it's
Yeah,
not
but
pretty reading. It's not pretty
no, it's
reading.
not, because that's 3 games versus 49. So that's 5 strikers over the course of 49
Mm.
games versus 3 games. And it is Haaland, and he's a phenomenon. But to have 5 strikers over field in the 49 games scores 6 goals at our ground is horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. So Jordan Hugill, yeah, shout out to Hugill. Bring him back just so he can go out of the bubbles. But we desperately need to fix that. And like he has to, before we even get to January, he has to start giving Wilson and Marshall
Mhm.
more minutes, because we kind of
Yep.
seen. I'm not saying that full crew is done in the bin forever, but right now he's just not doing it.
Mm.
And so we got to find another, give someone else a chance, I think.
The thing is as well, though, mate, is when you think about it, it's again, Foucault spent a lot of time playing under 2 managers that never really played to his style. I know he spent a long time injured, but how defensive that we are. I've seen
Mm,
this time and time again. How deep we sit doesn't suit that type of striker. We play sort of low block defensive football with no threat on the counter attack. Under Moyes, at least we had that threat on the counter attack. We had players there that would cause teams problems. We don't seem to have that in a minute. And I don't think that's why I think Fulkrug doesn't really work out with us in the style system that we're playing.
yeah.
It's look, we know it's a lot easier to score goals in Germany than it is to score goals in the Premier League. That's the difference as well.
Yeah, that's it. So it could just be something a style issue. Randy asks, Dennis Scott, did you hear the other clubs are trying to sign Maximilian Hahn from our recruitment team off us if Macaulay goes as well? I thought Macaulay already went, but Maximilian Hahn, he's the specky guy. I think Stuyton brought in, recruitment guy. Apparently, he was responsible for the youth coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a great pick, but he's been linked with, I believe, a couple of German clubs and like championship clubs like Southampton. So it wouldn't surprise me if Sullivan just went, yeah, no, get him gone. We've got Will Sorthouse. What do we need Maximilian Hahn for?
But again, and this sort of
Oh, I've lost you,
action.
Scott.
Oh, can you hear me?
I've lost you. Oh no, sorry, that's me. Sorry, Scott. I've
Yeah, I thought
accidentally
you were
muted.
gonna
Yeah,
that.
come on, mate.
Yeah. Look, that is the problem, isn't it? You've got someone out there who's a scout, who's scouting players, and from what we hear, he's brought in probably so far the signing of the season. The player that's been the best performance of all the new signings, and then we're going to look to offload him. When we look at the problems within the club, that is part of the problem. We've got someone there who's got an eye for a talent, who's got an eye to bring a player in, who knows the job that they're been asked to do, and we're looking to let him go. We're going to let why would you want to go to a championship club? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It makes no sense, and this is the problem within the football club of why we don't progress, why we're not getting any further afield, because the structure behind the scenes is never forward thinking. It's always quick fix, quick fix, quick fix. We've got a problem. Sack the manager, chuck some money in it, sign a plan. There's never no plan of going forward.
yeah,
And this is what you employ scouts and recruitment people like that to look further forward, look beyond. Signing. You look at it. We've signed youth. 19 years old. Magassa's 21.
yeah. Fernandez is
Fernandez,
like 20 or 21, 20.
yeah.
Something like that.
So we've signed players looking forward, looking at. right, we're going to get potentially the best out of them. Look, they've been signed to be sold on. We sort of know that unless something dramatically changes within the club or they turn out to be an absolute well beater and we can build a team around them, they have been brought in to help us progress and then go and earn us twice the amount that we paid for them if it works out.
100%.
And again, we've gone back to how we was before, a selling club, and that is another part of the issue.
Exactly, mate. It's definitely an issue we need to bloody fix. But let's bring in James, fellow West Ham channel from the Anvil. Shout out, James. Hope you're good, mate. And of course, we're talking at the moment about Nuno opinions. What can he do? What does he need to do to fix this broken team? What needs to be done, mate?
First and foremost, I think add a little bit more stability in the team itself and get us a bit more focused. And secondly, make us hard to play against. Like if you've seen it in the games against Everton and Arsenal, those two teams had to really grind it to get points against us. So it doesn't want West Ham to really be pushovers anymore, I don't think. And by doing that, he needs to get the players to really get their asses into gear. I mean, he's the kind of manager who's, I think, got that in him. He's already told the players to show your worth, and that's exactly what you have to do first and foremost. Secondly, he's got to improve our play on the pitch. And already you're seeing signs of the positivity there. Defensively, we look a little more tougher to play against. No, we're not conceding from set pieces really anymore right now. But as you're saying, what he does need to do, he needs to get a striker in January, because it's the same old thing, like where we have not got a striker who is consistent enough or can stay fit for long periods of time. And if that means that he takes a minutes with Wilson and Marshall, or even gives Marshall more of a chance and he pays him by scoring a few goals, and that will work out just fine. But he's definitely got a good group of players to work with. He just needs to find a spark in them and then ignite the spark.
Yeah, that's it. And someone asked me the other day when I said about we need a striker in January, and they're like, "Who?" And I really struggled because the market is really tough right now, isn't it? Like in terms who to bring in, like where do we go? We may have to, if Maximilian Hahn, we ain't pissed him off to Blackburn or Southampton, maybe he can find another Diouf, but up front, who knows? But Nuno's gonna have to find something in what we've got. And that lineup, that the players that he's going with at the moment, do you think he needs to change the lineup? Obviously, he's still getting to know these players, but is there anyone that you think, well, he needs to drop in, bring him in?
As far as the lineup goes, he has already made changes by getting rid of James Ward-Prowse at the start 11, which was in some ways brave, but then again had to be done. And you're already seeing some changes there. But in terms of changing his lineup, he'll have to adapt and mix and match if he can. Like I say, he's already got the players there. And by getting them playing a better football and getting them more confidence, they can probably replicate some more positivity on the pitch. But as far as his lineup goes, I think he just needs to work out the striker situation again. Like who's going to start permanently a striker? Because Fulkrug doesn't have it in him to start a full 90 minutes. Even Wilson doesn't really have it in it to start a full 90 minutes. So that, like I said again, he's got to address that situation right now. And he's already made changes to the midfield. I mean, Magas has come in, and although Magas has looked a little bit shaky, he has started to find his footing a little bit. Fernandes, my judgment's still out on him a little bit, but he did have a 100% pass completion rate against Arsenal and didn't look horrific. And like I say, defensively, he's got us structured there a little bit more better in the back. Diouf has played very well. Walker Peters has surprisingly played well, and he's got Mavropanos playing better. All he needs to do is get Kilman to play like he did when Kilman was at Wolves, and then we'll have a solid back line there.
Yeah. And Jason asked the right question. How do we fix the striker situation? And who's out there for us to buy in January? Well, there's Adama Traore. Maybe he can make him the next Antonio, but buying him and sticking him up front. And I know, Scott, you'd definitely be against that, but he could be the next Antonio. Go from that pacey, powerful winger to a pacey, powerful striker. And him, you got Somerville, Bowen, Traore. I don't know. I know you're against that, Scott.
Yeah, that's the thing, mate. We said we'd do that pace on the counter attack and things like that. So he does bring that pace, but as I alluded to when we talk about it on Friday, his stats are awful. You know, for a player with his
Yeah.
power and pace, his finishing's nowhere near good enough. His assists are not good enough, and for someone of his ability, he should be creating a lot more chances.
Do you remember Scott though, and James? Like a few years ago, there was a point where Antonio wasn't really scoring, but a lot of fans were defending him by saying, "Well, he occupies defenders and
Hmm.
allows others to have space and score." Traore would definitely occupy defenders, would he not?
Mm-hmm.
And then allow space for Bowen maybe to come in, and he's the goal scorer.
Yeah,
What do you
well,
guys think?
my take on this is quite simple. We don't need to go and splash 30, 40 million on a striker. Because look at like what Wolves have done with Strand Larsen. They didn't spend a lot of money on him, and he ended up getting double figures. I
Hmm.
mean, yeah, fair enough. It's the position that's you got to spend the most money on, hypothetically speaking, because that's the person that's going to assumably score the most goals. But for us, we don't have a striker that scores the most goals. It's actually a winger who does it. So I don't want to splash in like loads of cash on a striker. Maybe get someone who's like 15, 20 million, who can absolutely ball out every week and complement the pacey wingers instead of someone who's slow and can't hack it in the Premier League.
Yeah, that's going to need top-notch scouting. And Josiah brings up a great point. I forgot about this. We are linked with Joshua Zirkzee from Manchester United. Now, he's had a bit of a tough time there. He's blown hot and cold at Man United. There's times where he shows glimpses of his potential and then can go missing and just, have poor finishing. I don't know if you guys will look at a loan for the rest of the season and Evan Ferguson type deal with Joshua Zirkzee. What do you think about that?
That'll be very hit and miss, I think. But there's one thing for sure about Man United strikers: they leave the Premier League, they go somewhere else to do better. So maybe it's this league that's he's not cut out for. Um, is it a risk worth taking? I do not know. Honestly, I do not know.
That's the thing. Like you said, you know, when these players leave the Premier League, they seem to improve. You know, and you can't just look at it. Oh, it's Man United. You know, it's the pressure of playing for that football club. I do think certain players are suited to play different different leagues, and I don't think every striker's cut out. Just because you can go and score 20 goals in the Bundesliga or 20 goals in Italy doesn't necessarily mean you're going to come in and score 20 goals in the Premier League. You know,
Seeing
if you
that with
can't cut it,
Jokeris.
yeah, you know, and it's the thing you can't just think of players that play for Man United and can't cut it at Man United are going to do well. The Lingard thing was a freak. You know, it just everything clicked at the right moment and it worked really well. You're not going to. We saw that with Ferguson. You know, we took a gamble on a non-fully fit player who's just coming back from injury. It didn't pan out. You know, and I don't think signing Manchester United's rejects now in the situation we're in is benefiting us because let's be honest, they're not much better than what we are.
No,
Yeah.
not really. And the reason why they don't play a lot for United right now. It's United's lost because they splashed so much money on Højlund and Xerxes. And I said to myself, they'll get one goal on the debuts and then they'll just be crap for the rest of the time. And lo and behold, it's happened.
Mm.
Yeah. It was funny actually.
Surprisingly, didn't get a goal
Speaking
against
of
us.
Yeah,
well, yeah,
but
that's it. That's one benefit. But there's also talk because apparently Man United are not going to be renewing Harry Maguire, whose contract is going to be up at the end of the season. There's talks about West Ham potentially going in for him, and he's the one that Moyes wanted. I mean, the big stumbling block for me with Harry Maguire is the wages. Like for him to go to any club, if it's West Ham, if it's Everton, whoever he goes to, he's going to have to take a massive wage cut because he's on mega money. But in terms of profile, he's probably the defender we really need right now. And
yeah,
might be able to give him a fee in January, even actually. That's same losing for nothing.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because the one thing we're going to complain about first and foremost is he's going to be 33 next year, and he's older, and United fans always got on his back. quite a bit for his inconsistency. So my worry is to come to West Ham and do that again, because it's not the Harry Maguire of Leicester. It's not the Harry Maguire of old. So what's he going to be like in West Ham colours? That's my kind of worry. And yeah, the wages is going to be a thing. It's just a typical Sully thing now, isn't it? Just to get 30-odd-year-olds on massive wages. Did it at Birmingham, they'll do it at West Ham. And I oppose it in that sense.
Yeah. I do think, though, and I'll get your opinion on this, Scott, next, is the one thing I look at Maguire, he probably is more suited to Nuno and how Nuno plays, obviously playing a little bit more defensive. I think you're going to see probably the best of Maguire and not having to play high lines and things like that. I know what you, Scott, if you think maybe it could be a Dawson type impact of, like, say, 2 seasons of Maguire finish when he's 35. Do you see him having it in him, or do you think we need to just find someone younger who's a similar profile?
I'll be honest, mate. I'd rather go out and find someone younger of a similar profile. Look, Harry Maguire was a decent player, but I think his best days are behind him now. We need a centre half in there. Who's
to be fair, last season though, Scott, that's probably his best season, and it was under Amorim. It was probably but not best season. Sorry, best season in a while.
But this is the thing. He's not getting any younger. Look, having that experience coming at the back would be great. He's an England international, but the Maguire that plays for England isn't the Maguire that plays for Manchester United. And I just think it would be too much of a gamble for us to bring in another aging defender. We need to be looking at getting younger defenders in who are a bit more solid with a bit of pace about them. We missed the chance when we had the opportunity to sign Chalobah from Chelsea. He would have been perfect to come into our back line. Bit of pace about him, solid centre half. That's what we need to be looking at. Not what we were saying about going back to becoming a selling club. We're going. Are we then going to go back to like James said? We've then when they were at Birmingham signing older players on big money, big contracts for their last payday. This reeks of what we used to do back at Upton Park towards the end, where we were signing these 33-year-olds, giving them ridiculous amounts of money, and there's no sell-on value. They were absolutely useless. I ain't going to say Maguire will be useless for us, but it's again going backwards instead of going forwards.
Stepney says Elise Maguire can head a ball and is a goal threat, which we lack. We're starving right now. We're starving for it. Like, you look at the players we've got. I think that's it, isn't it? We're just thinking, oh, please, someone just.
We've got no centre back to head balls in. Like Bonner used to do it, Dawson used to do it, even Zuma did it a little bit. We've not had a defender who can score from corners or what have you.
I think that's pretty poor. You're a defender, and you can't head the ball. You can't beat attacking players or midfielders in the air, even. Like, to be that bad in the air as a defender, like, that's got to be a key skill to have, right? Be able to head the ball and beat players.
Yeah, I mean, it's a basic job of a defender, isn't it? I'm not sure if it's a height issue, but some defenders that we've had at our club cannot do it. I mean, what I think it is, just going back on what Scott said, I think we need to get away from these techie, pacey defenders and have someone who's just very robust and stays at the back. To be quite honest, because like Dawson, we all slag that off, but he was solid at the back. He was old school. Like, get someone who's not all this long ball hoofing defender. Just get someone who's like rigorous and just is made of steel.
Yeah, no, you're right, and that's the thing, isn't it? There's so much been made of having these players that can all play out from the back, but we need it, and the goalkeeper situation. We need just a good old-fashioned bastard defender. Like, we was there and at the Arsenal game, and Ginger Pele was in the crowd, and everyone was singing, 5 more years, Ginger Pele, and that we think we could do with him back, because that's how bad it is. But to Debo, he's one that looks like it's just not going to work for him. He looks finished. He sounds like he's a bit lazy. Yeah, bad attitude, lazy bastard. That's the impression I get. I don't know if you guys think like he's done or there is maybe a road back for him under Nuno, but 2 managers now, it hasn't worked out for him. And Nuno could be the third. He just is I think there's a talented player there, right? I really do. If he can overcome that laziness and get his fitness together, I think he could be a real top centre back.
But
Yeah.
like, go on, James. Sorry, mate. Go on.
No. You go first. I was just agreeing
No,
with that.
I'm just going to say, like you were saying, Dan, if it's two managers now have had a similar issue with him, then you've got to be looking at the player. There's something wrong with the player. The potential's there, but is he another one where he believes his own hype? You know, where he sort of thinks that he's bigger than what he is, and you know we can't afford them type of players at the moment. We need players that the chips are down. We need them to fight for the shirt, and he just doesn't come across that type of player. There is a talent now. He's a decent defender, but I don't think we're going to get anything out of him in the situation that we're in.
Yeah, 100%.
Exactly.
Yeah, what were you going to say, Jay?
Just someone in the comments there just mentioned Winston Reid. That is a throwback. I'd actually forgotten about him for a little bit, but he was a good defender. Spent a long time at the club as well. In terms of looking at defenders, I have my own channel. I do scouting videos. I've looked at centre backs. Many of them have gone to clubs and they've gone and actually balled out. Like Coppola, who's gone to Brighton, I thought would have been pretty good for us. I thought he was a young, highly rated Italian centre back. And I look at him going to Brighton and I think, oh, I was right. Hire me West Ham United as your scouting director. But I think, I definitely want someone who's not necessarily tall, but who's just like, beefy and just wants to like snap players' legs. Someone who is
physical presence at the back.
The Julian Dix mentality, you know what I'm saying? That's what we need for our centre backs. Just absolutely snap players. And not be scared or backtrack, because look at for example this season, like Kilman's got £40 million, but does he really justify £40 million? There've been a lot of times where he's missed headers, he's not got his man back, and it's raising questions about him. Mavropanos, on the other hand, by the way, I actually will put up my hands and apologise. I think he's done very well in the Nuno team, and even Bowen said he was a very underrated player. Just say that no one has any real belief in it. We're all running on fumes. I'm just running on hope. If anything, I'm running on optimism.
Running on hope in the number 275 bus, or wherever it is.
Yeah, no, it's a number 41 actually. Yeah, I'm out doing something today.
Yeah. Fair enough. That's the one position. When you look at it, we didn't sign a centre back in the summer, right? If I unless my head, but these are we had defensive issues last season, and we've gone into the season with Kilman, Tadibo, Mavropanos,
and Igor.
Yeah,
Igor.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. Listen, we've barely seen Igor. Igor was a panic signing for me. That weren't like, okay, like, we went into the season realizing we need a new centre back, and we're going, right, let's scout some centre backs. It was, oh shit, our defense is still shit. We need a centre back, and then we've gone out and got Igor. Like, did we
do you think that was they were relying on Agard to come back?
He went.
Yeah.
I actually forgot about Agard for a minute. My bad.
Yeah, that was the thing.
I actually forgot about Agard.
Yeah, I think we were just looking at him to be good, and he just weren't, and he just didn't work out and didn't want to be here.
What if we had a transfer window where we've ever signed really anybody good? We've either got them on high wages or they've ended up leaving after 1 year. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. So, what I would do, how do I approach that? It's quite simple. Don't splash out 30 odd million on players. Get them in fairly cheaply, and then let them grow according to their potential. Because you look at like the Lanzini types. He didn't cost a hell of a lot. Antonio didn't even cost a hell of a lot that window, but he did all right. He had the best return in financial investment. So that should be the approach to it. I mean, I don't want to see us spend £100 million on whatever, because Brighton does it, but that's Brighton. Brighton's a level above. Bournemouth does it. Embarrassingly enough, they're a level above. Other teams spend £100 million. Does it always work out for them? No, it doesn't. But it's a bit of a curse, really, because we're just going to say Q West Ham, and it's a curse, really, isn't it? How we could spend all this money and still be worse than what we are. It's one of the mysteries of life that not even the most highly ranked members of Mensa could even decipher. Honestly.
It's an absolute shambles. But yeah, listen, James, thanks for coming on. We'll get to the next guest, and we really appreciate you. Some
Absolute
great
pleasure.
points made, and we'll hope to see you again in the future, mate.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Cheers, James. Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
From the Anvil, check out his channel. And next, well, our next guest, I think, is trying to sort out his camera and mic situation. Give him a couple of minutes, but just a comment. Igor, give him a chance. Can't be worse than the other three. I think one of the issues with Igor, what I understand, is he also is not good in the air. Like, so
this is the thing, mate. We didn't address that situation, did we? We knew we were very, very poor at set pieces. As I said, we lost the Gerd, and it was just go and get whoever's available, and that's now where we're coming unstuck. This is look, I know he ain't been given a chance, but we are coming unstuck.
All right, let's bring in our next guest, and we're going to get to the bigger point. But I've got a question from someone in the audience, and I think this is a great time to ask it as we welcome Brian. Yes, well, good to see you, mate.
What's happening, fellas? You good?
Yeah, good, mate.
Yeah,
always
good, mate.
Good to see you, mate. We're talking West. I'm talking Nuno, but we're talking a bit at Potter, and Thunderlips here says, genuine question, guys. While I get Potter weren't great, don't you feel a bit sorry for him having inherited such a poor squad? He did inherit a poor squad and a mess, but he didn't do himself any favors, especially with a preseason and a transfer window. And I've lost a lot of respect for that man as a manager.
I think, look, you've answered the question. Like, if we unpick it and we look at what this gentleman said, absolutely. Do I feel sorry for him? Yes, for the reasons he stated. We literally inherited a poor squad, which was made up of two previous managers' teams, and then with that, given a transfer window where again jostling for position with the hierarchy in terms of bringing in players. But at the same time, as you said, Dan, didn't do himself any favors with some of the players he did want. He did get some of them, and it's caused even more mayhem in terms of the state of the squad, in terms of what we are in going forward. We've got a new goalkeeper in that's now on the bench. So it's almost like, what's that, 20 million wasted. The whole problem with us has been pretty much the transfer, our transfers and the recruitment situation over the last 3 to 4 years. Do you know what I mean? So do I feel sorry for him? Yes. But as you said, Dan, I don't think he covered himself in any glory, and he had a substantial amount of time to turn things round. I think the be all and end of it is Potter was just a bit too nice. So when it came to dogging things out and having to sort of turn things round, I think us as fans started to lose faith. Some lost faith straight away, but others sort of started to think, you know what, are we going to be able to crawl out of this mess? And it just seemed the same as what was happening at the end of last season.
Yeah, seemed a bit weak to me as a manager. I don't know about you. So yeah, I don't have much, especially considering he's earned a nice pay packet out of his failures in the past few years.
You know what as well, right? There's some serious rebuilding for him, man. I don't know where he can go next, to be fair. There's a few managers like that at the moment where I'm thinking, you know what, will you get another job in the Premier League? And if so, where? Because just his stock has massively gone down after his last
back
two
to
jobs.
The Championship, or back to Sweden or something.
Yeah, for real.
The thing is, the club, I think the manager's got to have something about it. When you know you're going into a job where the situation's bad, you've got to have a bit about you as a manager to sort of galvanise players and get players onto your way of thinking and get the best out of them. I think when he come in, he didn't do that. We revert back to that Villa game, his first game, and like we were saying the other day, Dan, that looks more now, looking at it, the shackles were off the players. The players went and done what they wanted to do and come up with their own plan that almost worked. And then we start reverting back to Potter's style of football and took an even bigger backward step. I weren't a big fan of his anyway, but he just didn't seem to me to be able to get the players on side. And then when you see the likes, as we were saying the other day, of the likes of Emerson falling out with him, a player that's a serial winner, a player that's gone on, who's playing well for Marseille, and things like that. It says a lot that you can't do that. You're picking someone who's not playing very well as your vice captain. You're putting him in the side. You're going out there playing pre-season with a young lad playing in your midfield who's playing really well. As soon as the season starts, you're putting in players who you're openly trying to sell. I think as much as he did inherit a bad squad, he made some really, really bad decisions in using them players and upsetting the wrong players.
I think as well, he's probably a manager you bring in when everything's stable, you got good structure, and you're looking to build. Like we was in a mess, right? And say what you want about managers like Big Sam, but he came to us when we was in an absolute mess. But he had something about him. He went in, you knew where the buck stopped, right? He was the boss. He come in and he could whip players into shape, right? Similar to Moyes and managers like that. That's why they're so good at being these firefighter managers, because they can go in the club in a shambles and start organising and sorting it out. Where Potter, it's like you question me. Well, I won't ever talk to you again. You're out. Sorry, bye. There's no authority about him, so he has to ostracize the people that he can't bring into into his under his wing. But what do you think about West Ham, Brian, in terms of like what the hell does Nuno need to do to get us back up the table and looking more towards Europe than the relegation zone? What are some of the things that need to be done to fix this team?
Well, he's got to pull off results and performances like we did against Everton. I think for the first instance, it's about galvanizing the squad, keeping everyone like together, keeping everyone fighting for every ball, looking organized and having good shape about us. I think that's kind of like the main thing, because I've said it from day one. Like I don't feel we will get relegated. However, do I think that we're bang in it? Absolutely. And one of the reasons is sort of flipping it, right? If Bowen got injured, we're screwed. Yeah. If there's a couple of key people, right, that got injured in our team, with Bowen being the main one, then that would massively set us back. And then that's where you really see and unpick the flaws in our squad. Because as you've said in the past, Dan, we have a good 11. If you if you see the starting lineup or whatever, we all have a view in maybe what the starting lineup should be, bar one or two. However, that's not bad. We can play anyone with that 11. But then after that, there's not much about it. So I think with Nuno, it's kind of about just basically getting us organised, getting him, getting the team to basically follow his plans, his philosophy, his system of keeping everything tight. And then from there, basically, it's just sort of getting some of the key players to getting a tune out of them. Because if you look at his first two games, the thing with the Arsenal game, if we look at the Arsenal game, for example, right? Now you've got those that say, okay, yeah, we all agree that we didn't expect nothing from that game, but there are a section of fans that were disappointed with the output in terms of not having a shot on target and maybe not falling on our sword. But I tell you one thing, there's fine lines from getting the beating we got and holding a 6-0. Do you know what I mean? There's very, very fine margin. So I literally forgot about the game as soon it was done. But what I learned from that game, if there was any positives to get out of that game, there were probably only 3 things I could highlight. One is the couple of the youngsters got a run out, yeah, which that's something I want to talk about after. But that's kind of like one positive. Another positive is maybe Aaron Wan-Bissaka getting some minutes under his belt after a long layoff. And the last one is Mavropanos probably having, one of his better games. Do you see what I'm saying? So seeing him make a little bit more solid in aerial duels, etc. That's it. There's nothing else. There's really nothing to talk about with regards to that game. But all of that information allows us to form an opinion about what the future may or may not look like. But I think Nuno will do it. The thing for me is, what does the future hold in 18 months' time? Because we've got a solid amount of information, data. We've got facts around how long Nuno stays in the job. Um, Fallouts with the hierarchy in previous clubs. We've got information and data in how our club is in terms of the hierarchy. And what fans like and don't like in terms of style of football. We know Nuno plays a certain way that we're happy with at the moment, but will we be happy with it down the line? These are all things that, now it's cool, everyone's cool and we're steadying the ship, but these are questions that are going to get asked again in 6 months' time.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And what about like personnel? Is there anything you look at and say, well, he needs to drop him and play him, like because obviously he's getting to know the team still, but yeah, there's players in there that haven't been given chance minutes, and there's a lot of players that played a lot of minutes. Any sort of key players stick out to you?
First one's Fulcru. I feel he hasn't done enough in these 2 games. He probably fits the criteria of what Nuno wants to do, having a big man up top. I know we sort of compare, the whole Forest and Chris Woods thing, but I think Fulcru hasn't covered himself in glory at all. So I think that's the first person and position I would absolutely change without any hesitation. Then after that, it's a tricky one because I don't feel Paqueta's covered himself in any glory too, but he's someone that we need. So he almost has to play himself into form. I feel we're not in a position to drop him, but I'd like to see how he manages that situation and trying to get a tune out of him. Then after that, it's fine margins. You look at maybe fullback position with, does Aaron Wan-Bissaka come in full time? But him versus Walker Peters. You look at the centre of midfield. There's an argument to be had there with Potts maybe having 1 foot in terms of starting lineup, and would you swap him with Magassa and alternate there because Magassa will be okay, but he is clearly struggling with the pace of the league. But I feel he will come good. And again, do you play him? Do you play him into form like what Man United did years and years ago with Evra? They kind of just kept with him. He was absolutely shocking, wasn't he? And they kind of kept with him and he kind of picked up the pace. So do you do that, which could be risky because of where we are in the league? Or do you, give the young man Potts more minutes and make it more of a battle between them in terms of who starts? But the only obvious thing for me is definitely up top for Fulcru.
Yeah, 100%. Scott, and I'd be interested what you think, but to me, people around me was sort of writing off Magassa in a way. I'm not having him, and it's young, it's early doors for Magassa, and I think he does need time for the Prem. But I think it should definitely be a competition. Just because we've signed him and spent money on him, he should be like the de facto, like that's his position. Potts has given a good account himself every time he come on, both similar in age. So in fact, I think Potts is older. So I think it's more important. I think Potts now gets the minute so we can really take a look at him and see what we've got. But what do you think, Scott?
No, that's the problem. I think we've got to forget that the age of Magassa. Look, Diouf's come in at a very young age and hit the ground running. But sometimes, it's a little bit easier, I think, sometimes as a fullback to do that. Centre and midfield is a key position within the team. And when the team's not performing well, you're sort of you're very isolated. Even though he's in there with players, he's still getting to know the players. He hasn't had that experience that Fernandes has playing in the Premier League with Southampton. So we know coming from a different league in a different country, it takes a little while to get up and running. When you're walking into a team that's playing well and doing well, it's much easier to get up and running. But when the chips are down and things ain't going too right and there's a lot of scrutiny, a lot of pressure there, you then as a young player, you're more concerned of making a mistake. With Potts, Potts has been around the football club. He's been around the first team for a long period of time. He was, went out on loan at Portsmouth last season. Portsmouth didn't have the best of seasons, so he's learned there. He's had that bedding in period and learning the difficulty of is when things are not going right, and there's a bit more steel about him. And it's just, I think it's good to have that competition. Two young players who are pushing each other. I don't think we've got, in other positions, we've not got that. Everyone's very, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to earn my money, I haven't got to play well. But I think Magassa probably, obviously, for him coming in, wants to do well because he wants to prove himself in the Premier League. But then you've got Potts who's chomping at the bit in the same position, going, well, mate, you have a bad game, I'm nicking your spot. I'm going to take every opportunity I can. And it will benefit us because it will galvanise them two a bit to play better, to improve themselves. And then, but we need it to work with everyone else. It's what Brian was saying earlier with losing someone like Bowen. There's nobody there to push Bowen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bowen can sit and have a pedestrian game now and again and get away with it because there's no one there sitting behind him going, well, hang on, if you get it, I'm nicking your spot. There's no one there. Somerville, back when more under Lopetegui, the pressure was there for him to perform, and he did perform. Because he knew if he didn't, he'd be out. And this is the thing. You've got to have that. But I will keep rotating them too. I think they're give Magassa the time to bed into the Premier League. But like you said, Dan, give Potsy more minutes. Give him the opportunity because so far the 2 games he's come in, he hasn't really put a foot wrong. And there've been sort of critical moments. Everton was a critical moment because that game could have gone either way. And as I said, coming in against Arsenal, the performance wasn't the best, but the pressure's still there. We know Arsenal could turn it on and go and beat us 5-6-0. So you've got to come straight in, get your head down, do the grunt work. And I thought he did that perfectly.
And this brings me to another problem I've sort of seen with our midfield, right? Shout out to Nick, he's bringing up about Fernandez looks like a decent CM. We bought him from a relegated team, but he was another player. Fernandez around me at Arsenal, I was hearing, I'm not having Fernandez, right? Fernandez come in, I thought he was very good against Forest, and I thought he had a really good first half against Spurs. Everton game, weren't really at it against Arsenal. I think he's a good player. I'm not writing him off like others, but I think there's a problem in our midfield where there's no quality experience in there between them. If you've got Magassa, Fernandez, Potts, they're all young players. And I'm not advocating for James Ward-Prowse to come back in, but you think someone that's maybe a little bit older, 26, 27, that's been there, done it, that has that experience on their shoulders, almost like, if you had an Alvarez, but he weren't as slow as he was. It's a real tough dynamic, but we also haven't got that physical beast in midfield. I think Magassa was brought into speed. He's still quite young. He's still a little bit slender. So there's still, our midfield ain't quite there yet, but Fernandez, I'm not ready to write him off, but you just think on the balance of things, something's missing. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. It's a great point, and it's probably one of the reasons why Potter was playing James Ward-Prowse in terms of trying to have that experience, but we so badly missed legs, and having them two in the team, there is a transformation in terms of the team working and tracking back and going up and down, etc. I think if you look at the Forest games, you remember he played out on the left, right? And then with the last 2 games, he's played probably, I would say, in his more favoured position. With the system's debatable in terms of how people see it, but to me, it looks like a 4-1-4-1, and he's kind of, if you look at it as the 3 in the middle being Magassa sort of holding in front of the back 4, then you kind of got the Fernandez further up. So let's just call him a box to box in argument of this discussion, yeah. And then Paqueta further up as kind of like a 10, and then when out of position, it kind of like misses up a bit. So I think he's still getting used to the rhythm of the team. He's played, as I said, in 2 different positions across the 3 games, and they've been 3 different types of teams. So there's still a lot for him to kind of get used to, even though he's used to the league. I think there's a different sense of responsibility for him. There's a lot of responsibility on the shoulders of both of them, but we are missing someone who can just make it tick. We don't really have leaders in the whole squad, in my opinion. And I think having a voice, having some sort of voice, some leadership on the pitch can make a difference to inexperience or galvanizing certain players, particularly in that engine room, which is such an important part. But he is a talented player. I think Nick has a good point. There is sort of a sense of, someone else said it the other day. I think it was Troy Deeney, innit, about buying losers effectively, because players who have been relegated, they've experienced and tasted relegation, and they've come into a team that's battling, and then it's just much of the same. But so I do get that as well. I do get that, and but for now, I would definitely play him. I would definitely play Magassa as well, but I would alternate him with Potts. And this is where I feel the senior players, the players that we expect to give something in our team, the Bowens, the Paquetas. This is where I want more from Paqueta. This is where I want more from him. I feel it's his last season. I don't feel he can afford to have 1 in 4 good games. I can't. We're in a position where we're in a fight here. Do you know what I mean? Regardless if we feel we can stay up or not, the league table don't lie. Do you know what I mean? And the league is getting harder and harder now. There's not gimme games anymore.
Yeah. No, 100%, mate. And I mean, I think Brentford, I would start Potts. I think he deserves to get a chance to start a game. Based on, he played well in pre-season. He's played well when he's come on. And I think it's time to have a look at him, and then have Magassa be the one come off the bench, and then alternate like that. Obviously, you want a bit where you've got a consistent midfield, but yeah, that's what I would like to see. And I think with the relegated, buying players from relegated teams, I think it's fine. You can get the odd one. Like I think Fabianski got relegated with Swansea, right? And he's been an excellent goalkeeper for us. But when you start populating your whole side with players from relegated teams, and you've got so many, then I get that can start to creep back in, and you want to mix a few winners in there. So I get that mindset completely. I think hopefully Fernandez is young enough where he's not one of these journeyman players that have gone up and down the leagues constantly. But yeah, Potts 100% for Brentford. And I have faith. Do you know the player I'm really excited about is Mo Kante, because I look at him, the type of player, is the profile of players. It's what I've been crying out for in that midfield. Now he's still young, he's still raw, he's going to need a little bit more development. But he's someone I'm hoping maybe at some stage this season to get to see on the bench. Maybe there's a cup game there, but I think that is exactly the type of player we could do with.
So one of the things that I've been thinking, them things you kind of think you just hold it down because you're not sure how people are going to respond to it. But there's one thing that has been exactly the one thing that Nuno's done that's been exactly the same as when Potter came in. And that is when Potter came in, he put the youth in, didn't he? Put the youth in. In fact, there's two things. The first thing is that he said a lot about getting the fans on side. We need to get the fans. We need to be together. The fans are great fans, this, that, and the other. And the second thing was we need to blood the youth, etc., etc. And in his first 6 games, we saw that immediately. You saw Oli Scars getting run outs. You've seen players getting run outs left, right, and centre. Fans are cheering. Everything was going great. Now we know how it played out. Fast forward now with Nuno, it's almost the same playbook. Not 100% the same, but it's very similar. He's coming in his speeches to mention about the fans, getting the fans on side, and he's also mentioned about not mentioned, but he is been playing the youth. Now, I don't know if the guys coming on against Arsenal, bearing in mind how long was left, etc., was like a token gesture, or he generally feels that Marshall is ahead of Wilson, for example, yeah. And Potts I feel is okay, but if you're looking at the top, I think it's unanimous with regards to Full Crews not pulling up any trees, and something needs to be done there. And Wilson was unlucky not to get on against Everton. So against Brentford, or the next 4 fixtures, which are deemed as games we need to be picking up points. Are we going to see Marshall ahead of Wilson, like, or is this just almost like puppet master token gestures that are being done?
That's such a good point. What do you think, Scott? Because he's right. Like, Scholes went straight in the side, didn't he? Youngsters. He was filmed meeting the young players. Oh, look at him. He's talking to the youngsters. Yeah, we've got to bring the young players in, the fans at the heartbeat. That all went straight out the window. Then pre-season came in. Oh, here's Potts. Here's Fearon. Here's flipping Marshall. Like, and then season starts, never to be seen again. Like, so that is a little bit of a.
The thing is, as well, it was the same previous to that. Because you remember George Murphy being filmed meeting the gaffer, in the summer and all that, and he was loaned out straight away. So it could well just be lip service to try and get the fans on side and that type of thing. But you're playing a risky game. I think a lot of it boils down to, with managers, is that when things are not going right, they look at players who are experienced over youngsters. I think we see it quite a lot that they're more concerned about keeping their jobs than they are bringing youngsters through. And, sometimes, for me, I just feel sometimes you have to have a little bit of a gamble on a youngster, if your regular players are not playing well and you've got a youngster sitting there chomping at the bit to have a go, I think it's worth giving him a go. And I'm hoping with Nuno, that's why he's doing it. Because for me, Brentford, you've got to be starting Wilson. We need that experience. We need a goal scorer. He just brings so much more, his movement, but he's a player that Marshall can learn from. Yeah. And this is what we saw with Creswell and Scholes. The experienced player playing alongside the youngster. I'm not saying we're going to be playing 2 up front with Marshall and Wilson, but Wilson's a good professional. He's a good player for a Marshall to learn the game off. He's proven in the Premier League. And it would be good to see Wilson starting and in the 60th minute Marshall coming on if Wilson's not got the legs to play a full 90. To show and give him that opportunity. Because as we said, he's not working with Fulkrug. We've got a youngster that's playing international football. He's doing well for the under-23s. So let's give him that opportunity, but be it for the right reasons, not just to play lip service for the fans. Which, as you said, Brian, that's the worry about it. It is just lip service to try and get us back on side.
You made a good point there, Scott, and something that I've been thinking about a lot with this. When people say, "Well, it's a risk," the manager's taking a risk playing a youngster. Like, if we're playing really well and the team's ticking, and you go, right, I've got to drop this player who's on form and play a youngster, that is a risk, 100%. But if the team's doing awful and you're dropping a player who has been awful and useless, like Rodriguez, and you think, well, Potts how much worse can Potts do? Like, dropping Rodriguez for Potts, would that see us get relegated? I don't think so. I don't think that drop off is going to be. But you give him one game and you think, wow, he's worse than Rodriguez. Put Rodriguez back in. Like, I can't see that. Same last season. Like, I look at Evan Ferguson, how useless he was any time he played. You're telling me that there wasn't a time where we thought, do you know what, Marshall, like, how much worse could a Marshall have done than Ferguson? They both could have got the same amount of goals, but at least Marshall, who's our player, right, and our academy player, would have got much needed experience. And you start to not mind it, and Potter would have got himself points there and said, do you know what, he's giving Marshall minutes and experience, not, well, he's just signed this player from fucking his old club and he's just stinking out the place week in, week out. Like, things like that help you, and they help buy you points with fan bases, So yeah, I don't know why managers don't do it when you think this geezer's offering nothing. Like James Ward-Prowse or Rodriguez, and you keep playing them over playing a youngster. It's mad.
Yeah, it's a tough one, man. Because there's fine lines as well, isn't there? I guess with sort of like ruining a player's career. If you look at Scholes, he got ruined against Salah last season, and we didn't see him again. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't the game to play him, but again, there's fine lines, and that's the thing. I think sometimes managers sort of view the whole, the whole situation. Us as fans, we just look at it sort of like from a game situation, but they're looking at it from a whole holistic point of view and the impact it can have on the player's career and family and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I can see it both ways, but like Scott says, I think there are times when you just got to be brave, and if you think someone's good enough, it's like if you're old enough, innit? If you're old enough, you're good enough.
Yep.
If you've got ability, play them. The problem, like I said, for us though, is just we don't have leadership. So in and amongst the squad, like if you had your Mark Nobles and your players who themselves, even if they're not having a good game, they're geeing people up, they're making sure people are getting stuck in, etc. And we just don't have that. And that's one of the things for me that is really scary, is that the key players, if they're injured, we're done for. And also the lack of leadership. We saw how the heads kept going down when we were conceding, or if a team came back on us. I mean, and you know what I mean? The mentality just dropped. And I think that's one of the things that we've seen with Nuno, that has shifted. Even in those last 2 games, we've kind of been in the games, in Everton, and even with Arsenal. Like Arsenal went back down to second gear, but again, like I felt that that could have been a big beating if we were under Potter.
Shout out to Fortune's always hiding. Fortune's hiding down under TV. You can't ruin a career if you don't even start. Exactly. We see so many players. Oh, what if you start them and they're crap and it ruins them? And then it's like so you just never start them because you're worried about ruining them. That's. But
don't you feel though? But on the flip side of that, this is what I'm saying. Like if you look at like quality, like top notch players, your Rooney's, your Michael Owens, all of those, right? Players that are special. Managers threw them in because they knew they had something about them, and that's the thing. I feel
because you had to back then. Really, that's what you had. Like, not all the time. Academies, that was the culture. Bringing players, you couldn't just have endless transfer funds to go out and just splash money and sign young players from other clubs. It's like we have our academy players, and academy players we have to bring them through because we ain't got an unlimited pot of money.
I think the difference with that is when you look at players like Wayne Rooney, for example, they knew Rooney was going to be good. They just knew they had the talent, and they were planning to bring him in.
That's on the other extreme.
But they were planning. That is where forward thinking. They were even planning who they were going to go and play him up front with. They had all this in motion because they knew he was going to be a talent, and throwing Rooney in, it could have not worked out, but the talent flourished and how good of a player that he was. But sometimes you've got to take them risks.
Just take the risk, mate. But so it's good. Well, Brian, listen, mate, we appreciate you. We'll get to the next guest, and listen, definitely got to get you back on, have a good chat soon, mate, and hopefully things are going to be looking more positive over the West Ham world.
Yes, mate. Nice one, fellas.
Much appreciation, mate.
Speak
soon, right?
Laters.
Okay, we will bring in our next guest. Shout out to James, E20 Zone.
How's it going,
to see you, mate. Good to have you back on.
All good, mate. All good. How are you? How is everyone? Is everyone good, healthy, happy, or not?
Yeah, all good, mate.
Outside of West Ham, things are much better than mate, I was at that game against Arsenal, and I was just so miserable because I was like, this is the state of West Ham right now. Nothing about us. It was just so depressing to be there. But mate, like the question is, how do we get out of this slump? How do we get and get back to where we want to be? What can? And we obviously know the bigger picture is always going to be Sullivan. But while that clown is in charge, is there anything that Nuno has in his control? Like Moyes sort of did for a period of time to sort of work this and make us a success in spite of Sullivan.
We've got to fight. Simple as that. We've got to fight for the shirt, fight for the badge, stand together, support the team on and off the pitch. There's a lot of issues at West Ham at the minute. Obviously, on the pitch is a problem. off the field is a problem. Obviously, the protests are the right thing to do. They need to be done because this man's been in charge for a long time and he's not fit for purpose anymore, Dan and Scott. Like at the end of the day, right, when we get back, we need to get at least minimum 4 points against Brentford and Leeds. Right, that's a must. Yeah, beat Brentford. I think Leeds is a tough game Friday night, Ellen Road on Sky. I think we're asking to go there and try and win that. If we win that game, then great. But if we get a point up there, I'll be over the moon with that. And then we come back, we've got Newcastle and Burnley. Right, we need to start picking up some wins. I've got faith in Nuno. Like people are a bit like that with Nuno, but look what he's done with Nottingham Forest. And if he can get us out of trouble, right, yeah, the future's bright. But it's not Nuno what's the problem at our club. The problem at West Ham is the ownership, and the ownership looks at us as a small club, small mentality, and that's where the problem is. Do you know what I mean? You've got an owner who doesn't care other than about the pound note. And I've always said this for a long time, and I'm so happy that everyone is coming together, looking at it from afar. Everyone, all the fan groups are coming together and saying, right, that's what the problem is. It ain't no manager, it ain't players, it's the ownership, and this one man who owns the club at the end of the day. But we've got to fight. That's like, I'm not being funny. I'm seeing people say, "Oh, we're going down." Listen, I'm not hearing that right now on October the 7th, right? Because it ain't over yet, right? And West Ham are known to fight all the way to the end. We fought all the way to the end in 2003 under Roder and Brooking and all that, and we went down, but we fought all the way to the end. We're not down yet. We're far from down yet. So
have we ever gone down with a lot of games to go? Like most of my memory, we've been, like you said, fought to the end, and it's gone to the wire. And you're right, and I think we got the manager to do it. And I wish the owners looked at us as a small club before they decided to take us to this soulless football ground and said, you know what, they'll never fill it. Oh, no chance. Oh, we can't have that. But now it's like, oh, well, you can't with West Ham. You can't. What you expect? Now we're here. And it's the thing, mate. Like, I think you're right. 4 points we have to get that, because right now we're all in the mix, right? In terms of points, we're not adrift. We go to lose those games, or you get 1 point or 2 points from those games, and the teams around us pick up points. Then we start needing to win 2 games and then hoping the other teams also lose, and then you're in. That's a horrible place to be.
Yeah. Listen, I completely agree. Like 4 points, I don't think's like undoable. The only problem is the boycott game is the game that we need a win in. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And obviously that's a problem in itself, but I can understand it. Like I say, I support the protest. I understand everyone who's doing it. I'm with them all the way to the bank because I've been protesting for the last 10 years. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I know exactly what they mean and what they're trying to do. My only issue is what happens when we come to January, because Sullivan's going to have to put his hand in his pocket and invest in his side and get us out of trouble. Because if he don't, then Nuno's working with 3 different managers' players here. He's working with Moyes, Lopetegui, and Potters, and he can't do it. Do you know what I mean? He's got counter-attacking players. He's got possession-based players. He's got sort of a mixture of everything, and literally he's working, trying his best to get results. Do you know what I mean? Come January the 1st, West Ham need to be out of that bottom 3 and maybe about 15th in the league. If they can get to about that and then invest, then they can get out of trouble. I do agree with you, though. If we get cut adrift and we've got to win 2 games in a row, that's when it becomes a problem, and then we're struggling. Then we're fighting uphill, and that's a worry for me, mate. That really is. But it ain't over yet. Like, we've just got to beat the teams around us. Don't lose against them teams away from home, and I think we'll be all right, if I'm honest.
I think that's the thing. I think the weekend was the key game for us. You know, going to Arsenal, not getting a spanking. You know, but the teams around us didn't pick up many points, and for me, that's the big thing, because there's still pressure on that Brentford game to get the win, and I think it is a winnable game. You know, I don't think Brentford are that great. I think we can get about them and go and get the 3 points, but I think that game is the key game, because we're playing after everyone else has played. We know the position that we're going to be in, and lose that and have to go up to Ellen Road and get a result there. The pressure. I wouldn't want that pressure on these players, because I don't think they've got that ability to cope with that pressure of desperately needing a win. At the moment, we need the wins, but we don't desperately need the wins.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, right, we're 4 points drift. We've got to win this
Yeah.
game to keep us in. We're like, if we win this game, we're going to jump up 4 or 5 places. You know, that's the pressure at the moment. But I think if the pressure really starts hitting home and we are cut adrift, I just can't see us climbing that ladder, you know, climbing out of this position that we're in. And I think... Go on, mate.
No, go on, Scott. Finish your point.
What I'm saying, with what you were saying with January, I think if we are in a bad position, I think Sullivan's got to dip his hand in the pocket, not only because he doesn't want us to go down because he's not good for him, but I don't think the likes of Kaczynski and people like that on the board are going to stand there and allow him not to invest to try and get us out of this situation, because that their major shareholders are not going to want their investment being put into the Championship, because there's no game for them going down now. So I think that puts a lot of pressure on Sullivan. You know, I know he's the overall owner and he's the one that makes the decisions, but them board members who have invested in this club, and as we said, when you look at Kaczynski coming, the cash flow being invested into the squad has increased since Kaczynski's stepped in. I think they'll put more pressure on him to actually invest in this club at this moment in time when we get to January.
Yeah, no, 100%, mate, 100%. And look, people in the chat, they're talking about the boycott and people saying it's not a good idea to them and things like that. Here's the thing, right? And I said this on another channel, Spurs fan, Sabo, right? He asked me about the boycott. And what I said was, with the boycott, people are sitting there, oh, you know, well, if we boycott, you know, it's going to affect the team negatively. And that is going to be the narrative. If we lose, it's because of the boycott. When we was in lockdown and we were smashing teams in lockdown in an empty stadium week in, week out, we were told it's because the fans weren't there. That's why we're so good, because the fans aren't there. Now, with Brentford, it's, the fans not being there is going to negatively impact the team. So we can't do that because that's bad. So what about under Moyes then? In 2020, like it's a nonsense. It's an absolute nonsense.
It needs to be done.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but anyone who's saying, "Oh, well, it's going to affect the team," Sullivan's affected this club for years. Do you know what I mean? So let's not like make excuses for like games now. Sullivan's affected this club over the last 10 years since the LS. Do you know what I mean? So listen, maybe you've got to be cruel to be kind. You have to be, yeah, and it might send a shockwave through him to say, right, I might have to liven up now because the whole of these fan base is turning on me, and I've got to make it right. And the only way he's going to make it right is by him leaving. Do you know what I mean? Because there's nothing more the geezer can do, right? He can't take us any further forward. He stuck us in a ground that no one likes. Do you know what I mean? He's divided this fan base. No one else, him, with the antics he's done over the years. Like, listen, when the Moyes in, Moyes out thing was happening, he could have sorted that out in one moment, but he let it drag on and let the fan base literally kill each other to a point and go at each other, fighting each other in the ground, outside the ground, on social media. So Sullivan needs to have a wake-up call, and this is what it is, right? And the fans have had enough, mate. There's a lot of people like me, and I know, Dan, you've given up your season ticket. I don't know about you, Scott, but like I know people who have given up their season tickets and had enough of the situation. And years ago, you never walked away from West Ham, ever. You just never done it, right? You supported the club through thick and thin. Seeing people walking away now is alarming. Right, this is happening right now. 29,000 people have walked away over the last 5 years. There's more going as this year's going on. It's a problem, but it needs to be done. So he can either make a decision of either selling up or handing his shares over to someone else who can take us further forward. If I'm being honest.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And shout out to Chris, one of the people that's done a lot of good work for the protests and is involved in the boycott as well. The whole West Ham Fans United, Paul, and all those stuff. Great work they're doing. But he makes a great point. We lost all 3 home matches so far, conceded 10 goals. Like, being in that stadium, it's the same as boycotting, and it's a neutral venue. We have won 2 games at that ground in 2025 with full stadium, right? There's no reason why anyone can tell me the stadium being half empty, right, or mostly empty or whatever is going to be the reason why we don't win that game. We've turned up, week in, week out, and been served shit. So now it's a chance for us to make a statement, right? And that's what it's about. It's not about, oh, Sullivan's still going to earn off it. It's about the visual and getting that. And we have to try something. And if we lose, it's not going to be because the stadium wasn't full. It's going to be because our team's not good enough. And who's been the overseer of that team that we've got now is David Sullivan. In 16 months, we've had 3 different managers. We're on our fourth manager. 4.
Dan, he gambled, mate. He gambled with Lopetegui. Yeah, what it is, when people wanted Moyes out. And then listen, I know Nick's in the chat. I had many rows with Nick over the years, yeah, in regards to the Moyes out thing, right? But we broke bread, yeah. At the end of the day, when Moyes left, right, he had an opportunity to go and sign any manager in the world, and he goes and signs Julian Lopetegui. That tells me all I need to know. He gambled. He gave him a two-year deal with an option of a 3rd year if he gets into Europe. That's gambling. You're gambling there. You're not looking down the road a bit. You're looking at, oh, right, give him, he's a name. He's done it before. Let's see what he can do. And that's what it is, right? And the gamble hasn't paid off. It's as simple as that. And he's put us in this situation big time now because, well, we had a big spend under Lopetegui, didn't work out. Then we go and bring Potter in, which was, I'm going to say it was a scroll in Karen Brady's phone book. Like, that's what it was. Do you know what I mean? It was just a scroll, someone to know, and this is what it is. And then now we're with Nuno. The only thing with Nuno that I will say, which is a positive, is you've got to look at what he done at Forest. And the thing, what he's done with Forest, he done very, very well. And he had loads of players going through his books at Forest.
Wolves as well.
Yeah, but as so much as recent Forest, like when you look at all them loanees and like he had like 30 players on his books at one stage, and he can be able to get the best out of players. The issue that we've got is that we have 1 goal scorer in our ranks. That's Bowen. If he goes down, then who's scoring the goals for us? That's the only worry I've got. Like, there's no one else in there who's banging goals in for us. Falkirk's not doing it. Wilson's not doing it. So,
Yeah.
The thing with Nuno as well is that Nuno was a manager that was out of work more because the ownership of Nottingham Forest than the results. When you look at everyone else we've sort of gone for, like you said, with Lopetegui was another Pellegrini. Someone who's been there, done it, got a team into European competitions, won a European competition, that type of thing. So that's what he rinses and repeats each time. So that's what he's done. With Nuno was more out of work because of the falling out he had with the owner more than Nottingham Forest's performances. They weren't playing great, but I think it's more because he had checked out. He just had enough with the meddling from the chairman, that type of thing. Where normally with Sullivan, he goes for the unemployed managers. And this is what bugs me with this merry-go-round of managers that are not very good. They're firefighters. They can steady the ship. That's fine. We saw it with Moyes. It worked the first time. Moyes steadied the ship. We let him go. Right? Okay, we brought him back. He done great, but it was time for him to move on. When it comes to it, the squad was aging. The squad was dwindling in size. It was never going to get any better. And that's the thing. Like you said, he gambled on going for another Pellegrini type. Been there, done it, got the t-shirt. Doesn't always work. We needed a progression from Moyes that still played that defensive type of football, but had a bit more attack to it, had a bit more higher up the fence. We didn't go that. We went from a negative manager to someone who wants to be positive with a bunch of players that with that negative mentality of playing the low block and that. That's why that doesn't work.
I don't. Was he really positive? The thing is, with Moyes, we went through a period in his latter stages where he tried to evolve. And that's why you saw us play not on the counter. We played more possession towards the end, the passing sideways and backwards. That was so painful to watch. That was the worst Moyes ball was towards the end when he tried to be a little bit more possession, keep the ball more. Lopetegui just carried that on. But we still leaked goals for fun like we did in Moyes last season. It was like just an extent. It was like we've just had that last season of Moyes again. And that continued on. And that's the frustration. And then Potter, he sort of was still quite similar. I mean, we weren't leaking goals for fun, but we're still passing it sideways and backwards. And I'm hoping Nuno now, he's going to go back to counter-attacking, which teams aren't going to pay us any respect. So it should work in the short term. and hopefully he can evolve. But the good thing about Nuno is, he didn't get sacked from Wolves. He went to take the Tottenham job. Tottenham gave him like 3 months, and they were so desperate to try and evolve and play a better brand of football. And then they went through these sort of managers, negative managers. They finally went Ange, and now that's too attacking. So he never really. And then Forest, same thing. What you said, he didn't get sacked for footballing reasons. So we haven't gone and picked up a failure and hope that he could transform us. But shout out to Nick. He makes a great point with here about why we flourished in lockdown, because we're the only team that didn't suffer losing our home advantage. That place ain't home. It's a shit neutral venue. I think that's a great point. I mean, it's one of the reasons. The other reason was the counter attack. Like, teams were coming and attacking us, and we were ripping them apart on the counter. You had Lingard, but that is a key because so many other teams have a home advantage. We don't have a home advantage. So now they were was on an even keel because no one had a home advantage then. So I think that's a great point from Nick. 100%. But yeah, honestly, lads, listen, hopefully that Brentford game, like I said, if you are boycotting, get down the pub. Like I've said this to many people. Give me a pub, watching West Ham in a pub with other West Ham fans over sitting in that soulless bowl any day of the week. You know what I mean? If it's about the view, Scott would say, yeah, me and Scott were in the same spot. When the ball's down the other end of the pitch, you're like, what's happening? What's happening? Did we score? Who scored that? What happened? Why have we got why is there a penalty? So get in the pubs and watch it. And hopefully we can bloody win, lads, and we start looking up and positive. But whatever happens, like James is saying, if we do win, if we go on to win our next, 5-10 games, it's still got to be Sullivan out. That reminds me, this stat, right? West Ham. Before we go, I'll throw this at you. It's right. So someone shared this, and I was quite surprised about this, right? So this is about teams that have gone unbeaten runs. So Arsenal obviously had their 49 unbeaten. Liverpool had 44. Chelsea 40. Man City 32. Man United 29. Let's get down to the other clubs. So Forest, their longest unbeaten run was 25. Newcastle 17. Leeds 14. Villa 14. Spurs 14. Brentford 12. Palace 12. Everton 11, Wolves 11, Bournemouth 11, and you get down to West Ham 10. Like, that's our longest run of games unbeaten is 10. It's fucking mad. I don't know if that was that under Moyes?
But then also add the stat of what is the worst record in London derbies? Been beaten by the most in London derbies, something like that. You know what I mean?
We've lost the most London derbies in the Prem, yeah.
And that's the problem. Is I still think it's all short term. Every plan is short term. It's a short term plan, and this is why we have a season or two where we're really good and we do well, but still end up shipping goals left, right, and centre, and then go back to what we are now. For me, as I said at the start, we are now reverting back to where we was when they first took over at Upton Park. We are that side that gets old players on big contracts, gets youngsters in to make a profit, and going back to being a selling club. And, unfortunately, like you keep saying, without the change, it's going to be rinse and repeat. I keep saying it's going to be rinse and repeat.
It is, mate. I'm going to be honest. Like, if we keep going around in circles, we're never going to go forward. Do you know what I'm saying? And like, the problem is this has to be happening right now with the protests and everything. It has to be maintained and it has to be consistent. Like, you can't just have one protest and then leave it. And what it is, you've got to hurt Sullivan in the media, which I'm going to shout out you, Dan. I think you've been excellent on the stuff that you've done. All the people that have been on Sky Sports, Talk Sport, everywhere. Everyone's come together, but what everyone is doing is using their loaf now. They're using their brains and having their facts ready for these people that are going to try and spin in the narrative that Sullivan's like an angel when he ain't. Do you know what I mean? So, you know what? We just got to keep going. Obviously, on the pitch, we need to make sure we stay in the league. Off the pitch, we need to get him out. Yeah, and we need to force his hand because I don't think he's going to go easy, Sullivan. He's going to try and drag this out. But the more we put it on him, a little bit, the more he will buckle in the end. And he will buckle because I've got every faith he's going to buckle. Because look at the reaction that happened after the first protest when he got his bird coming out on social media trying to defend him. Like, and that's protest 1. Imagine it after protest 5. Like, you know, it's a different ball game now. Do you know what I'm saying? There's more people involved. More people are coming together. More people are pushing in the same direction. There's no ego involved now. No egos are getting involved. It's all just West Ham, Sullivan out. That's it, and that's what it should be. At the end of the day, that's what it should be. I can guarantee it. We get him out. West Ham's a completely different side moving forward. If I'm being honest.
Spot on, mate. Well said. And listen, hopefully that's not a too distant dream and we can get him out soon. So listen, James, thanks for coming on, mate. It's always good to chat to you. And yeah, hopefully, you know, we can chat again soon, mate, and have you on. But we'll keep between us, keep putting it out there, mate. Keep it up, keep fighting the good fight, mate. We appreciate you.
No worries, mate. Take it easy, lads. All the best to you.
Cheers, James.
Cheers, mate. Take care.
So there we go. We had some good callers in tonight. A lot of good points, mate. Some good chat. It's good to speak to different people. You know, we speak to each other all the bloody time, don't we? You know.
But the thing is, Dan, the one thing that you can see is when you talk to other people, everyone now is on the same wavelength. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know there's still a few people out there that are not anti-Sullivan or anti-Bald or stuff like that, but a majority of West Ham fans and, you know, hardcore West Ham fans, you know, been around a long time, and those that have given up their season tickets because of the move and things like that. I think we're 90% all pulling in the right direction. I think now, you know, you've got people that don't understand it, you know, who don't get it and that type of thing. But I think more now, everyone's pulling in the right direction, which will make it more potent, you know, and will cause more problems for the board. And as I was saying to you with the other thing, when you've got the likes of Kaczynski and that who are there and invested in this football club, they don't want the bad press. That's not what they signed up for this business for, and that's how they look at it. It's a business. They don't want that. You know, I think that was a big reason of why when we were looking to get new managers in, that they come in and had that board meeting and you know, said, look, we've got to put this right. And you know, I think that's like the guy said, you know, we've got to pull together.
Yeah, well said, mate. Well said. And that's been the biggest thing about this. The biggest positive is the fan base does seem more united than it's been in a long time. Which is great. I mean, listen, I would love to speak to some of the people that aren't bored out, or maybe bored in, or Sullivan, because I love to speak to people with different opinions. But this is the thing: they'll never come out and do it. They'll never front it.
Yeah, the thing is as well, though, sometimes it's hard to stick. You know, it's hard to stick your head above the parapet, isn't it? You know, when you've got the majority of people there. So there's probably people out there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but the thing is that it would be nice to hear from someone like that to see why their opinion's different. Do you know what I mean? And not just berate them for having that different opinion, but coming on here, you know, look, it's an open platform. This has always been an open platform. You come in and can have your opinion. You know, we might not agree with it, other people might, but it's your opinion and you're fully entitled to it. So I'd like to see someone come on and just say why they don't think it's his problem, why they don't think that we should be forcing. So it'd be interesting to see. It really, really would. Yeah. But I know it's difficult for people to do that.
It would take a lot of bollocks, that's for sure. That is for damn sure. That's the one thing I rate about Sean, right? Whetstone, is he'll just come on and front it. He's shameless like that. Do you know what I mean? He'll just come and.
But also, Dan, I'd like to have someone who ain't got no ties.
Oh yeah, of course, because there's a reason why. Yeah, we know the reason why he's pro board. Yeah, you know what I mean. He benefits of it. If there's someone out there who genuinely thinks that, and beyond just, well, you know, it could get worse. If someone else worse could take us over, like someone who has the bollocks to come on here and say, yeah, like I think this is the best we can get Sullivan. We need to stick with him. I would love to see that and just have that debate, because it'd be a fun debate to have. That's for sure. Someone who can genuinely believe it. But yeah, thankfully that opinion is quite rare. The support Sullivan has is minimal. So that's a positive overall that we can't find someone.
And that's what I'm saying, mate. I think we are more, those that sat on the fence are now more he needs to go than they were sitting on the fence, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Well, listen, mate, great show, great callers, and listen, mate, thanks for jumping on, thanks for filling in and that.
That's right, mate. It's no problem.
Listen, we're going to be back again tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll have Ryan on the show, another show, and hopefully another Lawless. Fingers crossed he can make it. Another Lawless coming on, double Lawless, and then obviously, it's going to be a very Lawless show. And then Friday Night Pint. Don't forget, we'll be back on. Are you on Friday Night Pint, Scott?
No, not this week, mate. I'm away, unfortunately.
He's always away. He's always away, this guy. Honestly. Like a hotel, more like a hotel, your gaff, innit? Yeah. I think Butlins is your real home, to be honest with you.
Mate, I can't. I would say I'd join in, but I can't say what state I'll be in. So yeah, I'm not even going to try it.
Fair enough. Well, listen, mate. Always a pleasure. Thanks for everyone in the chat. Always good reading your comments. Obviously, look, we can't get to every comments, but I'm constantly reading them. Getting a kick out of. I think me and Scott was laughing at the same comment at one point about Scott's hairline being a high line, despite looking like a mid block or a low block.
I'm holding on to this. Nicky's been telling me I've only had 2 haircuts left for the past 5 years. I'm holding on to it, mate. I'm holding on to it.
Well, Jace was holding on to it until the other day. He saw the weight loss video that we did, and he was like, "Oh, enough's enough." And then I said, "Let me just shave it. Let's just get it over with." And he's now joined the ball club. He's a baldy now. Me
and Ryan are going to keep up the good fight for the hair club. So we're all good, mate. We're all good.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. You're the last stand against us being an all bald channel. So do look out if you've got the memberships. That's going to be going up soon. This is going to be the last video you'll ever see of Jace with hair. Is this one, because it was just after that we went. They got some food, then came back, and then came back to my gaff, and then I shaved his hair before the Arsenal game. So I'm going to upload that right now. So yes, do look out for that. And yes, there's also, if you haven't seen it, for the Cult Heroes, and is it the Cult Heroes? Yeah, and Up is going to be if you haven't seen it, the Dom's review of the Arsenal game, if you ain't had a chance to go and watch it. And like I said, we're going to have more stuff. When Nicky comes back, we're getting that belt off Ryan, 100%.
Yes.
No two ways about that. Yes. So listen, thank you all. Hope you have enjoyed the rest of your evening and have a good rest of your week. And have a good one. One thing left to say, mate.
Come on, you.